And not far from the mighty Pegasus statue, we join you live from our paddock set studios here at beautiful Gulfstream Park, Thursday, March 1st. 2018. Can you believe it? Acacia Courtney, Jason Bloot alongside, and just like that, basically 3/4 of this championship season in the books at Gulfstream as we set sail on the Fountain of Youth.
It's pretty crazy, and as Jason said, Fountain of Youth coming up this weekend. Obviously, Kentucky Derby points on the line. We'll see the return of Breeders' Cup Juvenile Champion Good Magic coming back with actually a very interesting field assembled, and we'll talk about that certainly as we get a little bit further down, but pretty crazy how time has flown. So happy March to all of you.
No doubt about that. As they say, time flies when you're having fun, and this meet has certainly been fun. Now, we do kind of raise things up a notch both today and through the weekend here at Gulfstream Park with just a ton going on. Now, do note a somewhat late post time change to 11:30 a.m. here on Saturday. 14 races on that 72nd Fountain of Youth Day program, brought to you by ExpressBet.com. So 9 stakes, 14 races. We'll get underway a little after 11:30 a.m. and we have got those big multi-race wager guaranteed bets, that is certainly fitting of a big day like Fountain of Youth.
We're at $1.8 million going into today in the Rainbow Six. So if it is not hit today or tomorrow, it made it through yesterday, we will have a $3 million guarantee in that pool on Saturday, and we'll also have $500,000 in the late pick 5 and $750,000 in the late pick 4, and obviously that all culminates with race number 14. We already alluded to it, the Fountain of Youth. Pretty interesting field assembled. Of course, your morning line favorite at 7-5 is the juvenile champion Good Magic,
who's going to be tough to beat, even though clearly the connections have bigger fish to fry, and this is a first race to maybe knock off some ring rust and get Good Magic back in the flow of things in every sense of the phrase. But he is the class of the field, obviously an Eclipse Award champion, and I think a conservative 7-5 on Good Magic. I don't think you're going to get that high. He's probably in the realm of 4-5, 3-5 when it's all said and done as he faces 9. I'm curious to see the race for second choice of the wagering between the Dale Romans trained Free Drop Billy, who exits the Holy Bull, and I love seeing Mark Hennig taking a shot with the Swale winner, who's 2 for 2 in Strike Power.
It is pretty interesting. Strike Power stretching out to the 2-turn distance for the first time. He's coming off of that win at 7/8 and the Swale. Free Drop Billy, I have to say, ran very well, and you could see a big change in maturity from him last time out before his race in the Holy Bull. So I'd have to imagine he'd be second choice, finishing behind Audible, but like I said, should be a really fascinating race.
It's going to be a great day. That is the culmination. That perfect crescendo builds up through race number 14th, race 14, the 9th and final stake on that Saturday Fountain of Youth Day program. Now, we have got carryovers galore. Gulfstream Park really is carryover central today on this fast and firm March 1st, as we have just under $12,000 in the opening high 5. We'll have a solid crew of turf runners set to battle turf claimers, in fact, in which trainer Mike Maker sends out an uncoupled duo. A bit later on, we'll be well over $2 million today after we get that early pick 5 out of the way.
Well, as I mentioned, 1.8 just to start in the Rainbow Six, and certainly have to imagine that it will be well bet this afternoon. It starts in the 6th race this afternoon. Take note, if it's not hit today or tomorrow, then it will be that $3 million guarantee. Then we wrap things up with the late pick 5, and look, there's a carryover there too, $116,000 plus, so should be pretty fun.
Absolutely. We don't get many late pick 5 carryovers, so when we do, it's a special occasion in my mind, your mind, and we hope you'll be sending it in today, as we did end yesterday's card with a little bit of chaos. So annoyed at myself for missing that first off the claim Kabuki for Michelle Nevin. She does such a good job, and she lit up the tote board along with Kabuki at just shy of $50 in that Wednesday nightcap. But again, a new month is ahead as we welcome in March, and let's do so with the winning early pick 5 ticket.
I like it. I like the sound of that. We'll show you my ticket. I had to single somewhere. It's going to be in the last leg, but I'm using 3 horses to start things off. You mentioned Mike Maker. I'm hoping All Go can rebound off of that poor performance in the Little Magician. Just looks like maybe this could be a good spot for him after a bit of a troubled trip last time. Going with 2 deep in race number 2. I wanted to spread in the 3rd race. It could potentially be a quick pace up front, and you kind of have have horses that either are coming in good form and you're wondering if they're going to be able to keep that form, or you have some with some dirtied up form that have back class and some talent. So it's a very interesting race with a lot of layers. So I ended up using 4 horses. Went 2 deep in race number 4, and then my single in the 5th race is going to be Ferdinanda. I really loved her last time. She was, I believe, 20-1 morning line, bet down to 6-1, and a really game effort last time out for Barclay Tag. I like that she comes back and is not in a claiming race, so she'll be my single, $24 for me.
I feel the best with Ferdinanda has yet to come.
Yes.
And we'll see a even better effort today. She's second time out this season, and more importantly, second time out off that trainer change to the very talented and legendary Barclay Tag. But it all begins in race number 1 this afternoon, that early pick 5, and an opening turf race at a mile and a 16th, a $30,000 to $25,000 claimer for older horses, in which Mike Maker probably really likes the spot he's in. Not only does he have the drop down, the number 3 flashy Chelsea, who's turning back to, I think, a more suitable distance and is looking for his first win. Do note this, since August 21st of 2016 at Ellis Park, but Mike also has the 6 All Go, who landed in a race where there's just a complete lack of early pace on paper.
Well, that's my thinking. I thought that All Go could wire the field potentially. Now, he broke sharply last time. He was up close, and kind of looking back at that race, Tyler Gaffleon took a pretty tight hold of him early on, and so he never really got settled and then just got bottled up with everything. And the Little Magician, 2 starts back the first time with the blinkers and stretching out to the 2 turns again. I thought that was an impressive race. So this is at the 30. He hit the non-winners of 2 for 16, 2 starts back, but his speed, and I think he's coming back to a good spot where he could potentially use that speed to his advantage. I wanted no part of Flashy Chelsea personally. He's actually 0 for 11 at this distance. He's got a lot of back class, and maybe the drop is just going to help him, but this is a horse, I think I even tried to get him home 2 starts back when he was running behind Tazit, where he took quite a bit of money and just never fired.
Better horses, though, and that's the one silver lining he's got going for him today. It's that drop in class. I mean, clearly this is a former high-price claim for this barn on the turf right around Belmont Stakes time last June in Kentucky that just hasn't worked out. He's in for the 30K, and I'm going to bite here for better or for worse, although I certainly respect your top selection. Again, the higher priced of the uncoupled duo for Mike Maker. And
Ron's favorite, right?
he loves that angle, and I'll tell you, All Go really wound up in a race where there's just no quality early speed. He might really be able to get out there and settle things down beneath Erod Ortiz Jr., who comes into today's card with 65 wins. As we move on to the main track, next 3 dirt races on this Thursday, March 1st, are indeed on the fast main here at Gulfstream. Older filly and mare, 2 lifetime claimers set to battle in race number 2. Now, the likely favorite, and maybe it'll be narrowly, but I do feel in a way the horse to beat is the 4 Dreamin' of Aunt Antle, who has not been out in some 316 days and does return for a very good trainer in Angel Rodriguez. I just wasn't sure with them giving a leg up to a rider that they rarely use, who really flies under the radar here at Gulfstream.
It's true. She broke her maiden at first asking by 4.5 lengths. It was in maiden 16, so she started at a lower level, but she hasn't been seen since April. It was a race that produced 2 next out winners, but her work tab coming back is kind of pedestrian, and so we both used her, but a little bit further down. I just wanted to see one. I think that the exacta we have with the 2 horses are the logical ones, really, and just given the recency. Obviously, with my pick, Arch Legacy, last couple of races were on the turf, but turf to dirt with claimers. Jane Sabelli bats at 20% and 47% of the time in the money. Like Tyler getting a leg up, and this horse did break her maiden on the dirt.
Bun Bun also seems, she's from the rail, obviously, the one horse. She seems very reasonable and logical looking on paper. Consistent kind of horse who is just 1 for 16 and 0 for 3 on the year with 3 consecutive seconds. But I don't know if she'll face a horse like Italian Smile, who just ran her off her feet last time. She was a slight favorite in there at 9-5 and wound up winning by 10 lengths, beating Bun Bun. I think the usual effort of Bun Bun obviously puts her squarely in the thick of things in race number 2. Now, as we cut back to 3/4 of a mile in Thursday's 3rd here on the dirt, we have this older Florida bred non-winners of one allowance race, optional claimer, that goes with a field of 6, and perhaps one of the toughest horses stabled currently in South Florida is in the mix in the 4. Social Roy lost a tough one last time out, stepping way up in class, and I'm hoping he'll run well. But the one they've got to get around, and the real intriguing horse and the favorite, is the number 6 Town Policy, who, despite the fact he's won for his last 11, that last win, boy, did he run well, and that race came up fast.
Yes, it did. He went from a 78 to a 90 by our speed figure last time out, and we'll show you that race under Abby Medina, who will be riding him again today. And what I think is one of the biggest positives about this, and there he is in the red and yellow Navarro colors, the biggest positives is that if we can just freeze right there, the number 3 on the inside is our Limo Joe, a very fast horse. He was the pace setter, and Town Policy sat behind him and managed to rate in here as we let it go. Normally when you see the presence of an apprentice like Abby, who's good on the front end, getting a horse out of the gate pretty quickly, you see them, and with Town Policy's natural speed, just try to run away from the field. That wasn't the case this time. As you mentioned, he was 0 for 9 in 2017, had a good third, 2 starts back. Big, impressive win in here. Can he repeat that effort?
I just wonder, and that's the question, because where did that race come from? Had this been a first or maybe second off the claim for Navarro, or if a trainer change and go, well, okay, horse just improved with the switch in Barnes. But Navarro's trained this horse basically for his entire career, certainly over the last dozen races, and there hasn't been an effort lately that's even come close to approaching that win for the $25,000 claiming tag. Now, if you're curious like I was, with last out claiming winners stepping up into allowance company, we pulled a stat. That bat's middle of the road for this bar. Not great, not terrible by any means, winning basically with 1 out of every 5 starters. 12 for 54 with a last out winner stepping up from claiming to allowance. We pulled this stat, or at least I did, wanting to show these horses, and I picked Town Policy, mind you, but they are far from automatic and guaranteed winners when they're returning against better off a big win.
And that's certainly a fair assumption and takeaway from this too. I need to see him repeat that performance, but I definitely think he has talent. That's why I used him in second. And he's going to need to rate a bit like he did last time, because there's a lot of other speed. Social Roy, we know, is very quick out of the gate. Mr. Kisses as well. Mr. Kisses kind of inherited that lone speed with a lot of scratches last time out in a 5-horse field, but he's actually a former Navarro runner himself. So I took another stab with Cinderella El Chrome, and I liked this horse last time. He went off as the favorite, but the issue with this horse is that he's mentally he's mentally weak, you could sort of say. He is a horse that gets kind of worked up, stays on the horse path in the afternoon, and sometimes that translates to the track. So he is kind of hit or miss. The fact that Irad Ortiz picks up the mount today, I think that he's solid. I think he fits this. And even Jeremiah Engelhart in the past year, first after the trainer switch with dirt sprints, he's 38% in the past year. Obviously, most of those at finger lengths, but does a great job off the barn switch.
He's an excellent trainer. I sat down with him and taped Blues Clues, the latest edition last Friday. Hopefully, we'll have that out for you today online at GulfstreamPark.com and on our YouTube page. And I'll certainly tweet that out on social media. We'll see how Cinderella El Chrome does. And keep in mind, Jeremiah does have dirty coming up a bit later trying the turf. But that's a little ways off as we turn the page on to Thursday's 4th race, a 2-lifetime 6250 older filly and mare claimer. Miss Americaine, the Deuce, the number 6 Patty Point. We've got them 1-2 boxed up. There's just not a heck of a lot to say. They look best on paper.
No, they do. Miss Americaine on the drop for a very good barn and Kathleen O'Connell. And I just kind of took the wild card. Patty Point's never been on the dirt before, only the synthetic and largely the turf. So we'll see if he can translate that form, or she can, excuse me.
All right, let's move on to race number 5. We'll finish off the opening pick 5 on this March 1st with a 2-turn turf mile. 3-year-old fillies in this 50K optional claimer, and we both went with the 4 Ferdinanda, who took a nice step forward. No surprise, liked her like you did. First off that trainer change, dipping down in class for Barclay Tag, and she ran well, beating a next out winner in a race we'll check out back on January 17th.
She did. She actually beat 2 next out winners, so it's already proved to be a productive race. She was the number 4 that day. As we mentioned, she did take some money. Kitten's Cover Girl is the number 6 on the front end. She was one of the next out winners. And basically what Ferdinanda did was everything right. She settled off the pace. Jose Ortiz took her a bit wide, got her out in the clear. She's closing. She's going by horses. She was very game when she was dueling a bit with Kitten's Cover Girl. I thought it was a really nice performance from her. Can only imagine her taking a step forward. And like I said, I love that even though they dropped her for the maiden 50 last time, she's protected. She's not in for the tag today.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, the 6 Burks Garden, who you've got third, I left out, pulled a stat with trainer Bill Mott. Not a negative, not a positive. It's more just an intriguing move from one of the greatest racehorse trainers of the last century here in the United States. This is not, with this filly by Speightstown having just 6 days between her last race on February 23rd and today's 4th race, this is a move for a barn that will give you anywhere from, say, 700 to 1,000 starters a year. Not a move they do very often. Bill Mott, just 10 starters, making that 1 to 7 days between over the last 5 years.
And it's pretty crazy. I saw the same stat, too, because I was shocked to see her in the entries at first, because it's not something you expect from the barn. The reason I used her in third was the fact that John Velasquez does take the mount, and we've seen this so much that Johnny's not going to ride a horse if he doesn't think it's worthwhile, and certainly rides a lot for it for Bill Mott. But that was one of the reasons that I did end up using her in third, but certainly has to prove a lot today. I think the 2 Annabella Queen picking up Javier Castellano could be interesting. She's been pretty consistent in the last couple.
She has, and you might argue if you don't get that improvement today with Ferdinanda, we think she will improve, that the 2 Annabella Queen, hands down, is coming out of the best races recently at Gulfstream Park. Maybe a touch tougher than what she faces today. Save, of course, Burks Garden really running well, and Ferdinanda running well once again with Jose Ortiz. So we've got a couple of nice carryovers. We've got Salty making her 4-year-old unveiling a bit later in the day. All that and more coming your way after this.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet, we are racing.
Pennsylvania, proud of our growing breeding and racing industry. Tens of thousands of jobs with a massive economic impact. Now, North America's most lucrative awards program will pay a 50% breeder award for PA-sired, PA-bred maidens who run first, second, or third, with 25% for non-PA-sired PA-breds. Plus, up to 40% in owner bonuses, 400-plus restricted races, and our program has paid out $30 million for the 6th straight year. Breeding and racing in Pennsylvania, it's a winner.
Well, we chase that money. Let's get off to a great start on this Thursday, March 1st, and a hearty welcome back to this live edition of Gulfstream Today from our Paddock Set studios. Fast and firm, you can see the sunny day behind us here in the walking ring, and as far as this Rainbow Six, boy, oh boy, we had, what, almost, there was only one single yesterday. There were 4 or 5 consolations in the late pick 5, so that means we got 1.8 million plus, right? Not
too bad. We'll show you my Rainbow Six ticket, because who doesn't want all of that? But do note, we've mentioned it a couple times already, if there is not that one unique ticket today or tomorrow, we will have $3 million guaranteed in the Rainbow Six pool on Saturday. I'm going with $38.40 for a ticket today. I wanted to use 4 horses in race number 6 to try things out. You've got horses going back to the turf, a couple first-time starters, some horses trying the turf for the first time. A lot going on there. Yeah. Race number 7, going with the inside 2. I thought those looked to be the most logical. 8th race today, using 2 horses as well with Bunker and Golden Value. Could potentially be a big day for trainer Barkley Tagg. 2 horses in the 9th race as well. And then we get on to race number 10, and that is where we'll see the return of Salty, coming out of Grade 1 Company. She likes this track here at Gulfstream quite a bit. Obviously going to be using her, but with a couple others as well. And hopefully we make it to the last leg, and I will use the 4 Drinks on Maggie and the 11. Most logical horse, I think, but has to deal with the outside and Uncle Junior. Uncle
Jr., who may, even with that outside post, I think there's a chance she might trip out in that race and maybe just tracking the speed 3 wide or so before she pounces for Jason Service. But again, that is the final piece in a $1.86 million Rainbow Six carryover puzzle that begins with, again, quite a bit going on, as you appropriately said, in this 6th race today. A 3-year-old $40,000 to $30,000 maiden claimer at 5/8 on the turf. Now, the 7 Dirty is clearly a give up, and this is a horse they obviously, looking at the money this son of McLean's Music took in all of his races, including that stinker here at Gulfstream back in mid-January. This is a horse they had very high hopes for and clearly had been working out very well and very fast. Not sure if there's a breathing issue, but clearly stamina has been a major, major question mark and a lacking area, so to speak, of the 7 Dirty. But cutting back to 5, even though this pedigree doesn't scream turf to me, I'm going to take him on the drop.
That's fair, and I actually used him. I used all 4 of these horses because it just kind of looked like a sneaky for me, and especially with Louis Saez in the saddle, not to mention horses coming out of that Magnum Moon race. It's been very productive, and I think that that's a really nice horse for Todd Pletcher. But of course, this calls by McLean's Music, just 2 for 17 with his 3-year-olds on the turf. So we'll see what we get from that one. I thought that this race could potentially be crying out for a firster. So I took the Data Link firster, a gelding for Alan Goldberg. The works are okay. There are a couple decent ones at Palmettos, but both siblings, one on the turf, and just kind of looked like the right spot for him to debut.
And you've got a George Weaver firster as well in Tambora, going out with Jose Ortiz from the rail. Now, this horse was a $200,000 yearling buy, later pinhooked as a 2-year-old for just $150, and then debuts for maiden 40. So it's been kind of, at least in regards to a dollar amount, it's been a steady decline over the last year or so. But again, I think a horse, at least going into this sequence blind, you're probably in your right mind using, and you used, again, all 4 that we boxed up in the Super.
There's definitely some class in the pedigree in Tambora, maybe a little bit light on the turf side, but there is some class for sure. And then you've got To the Hilt, who has natural speed and some turf experience as well for Eddie Plesa.
Sounds good. To the Hilt in race 6 as we get on to the 7th here. Late pick 5 begins. Field of 8 with these 3-year-old fillies on this Thursday here at Gulfstream. 20K claimers in the opening leg. Mark Casse, we'll see, and obviously a finalist to be named a 2018 class member for Racing's Hall of Fame this coming summer in Saratoga Springs. And he's got a shot to really get off to a big, big first day on this March 1st, running 3 horses towards the tail end of the program, including Phenomenal Gem in race 7, the 1, and LA House. In case you use those same 2, that's where I'm going. 3 deep for me in race number 8. I definitely respect Bunker and Golden Veil, but I also included my top pick in Blessed Venezuela, first time out for Gilberto Zerpa. A lot of pace on paper in race number 9, and I'm anxious to see how that affects the one I'm a Wildcat, who is the horse to beat in my top pick. But 3 deep there. I'm going to single Salty. I was a fan of hers last year, and she was maybe a couple lengths behind her generation's best. But looking at just where some of the horses, the fillies and mares in the upper echelon of her division are based, they're out in California. She could have a pretty big East Coast run this season as a 4-year-old for Mark Casse, and then we'll see if Uncle Junior can show him who's boss here in race number 11, wrapping it up with a 3-11 and number 4 on this March 1st. That's my spread in race number 11 today, Acacia. But let's begin with Mark Casse, again, who's got 2 key layoff runners in races 9 and 10, but has a little bit of recency on his side here with the 1 Phenomenal Gem.
And we'll show that race at Tampa last time out, and I was even curious, well, would this filly potentially regress after that? And so she's the number 9 today. We're going to pick it up at the quarter pole. And basically what happens in this race is that she was knocked around slightly at the start, but moved up along the rail. Really nice ride on that day by Jesus Castagnon. And then if we can just freeze it right there she is in the blue cap, just coming up on the outside. So again, perfectly timed ride in here, closing pretty strongly as we go down to the wire. And again, I was wondering, well, would she regress off of that? But Mark Casse, second off the layoff with winners lost out on the turf. He's 27% winning and 50% in the money, and that's out of a sample size of 64 horses. So I don't think she's going to regress. The buyer speed figure of 54 that she got last out is comparable to the other big players in the field in here. And same with you, I thought those were the logical two.
And not to mention, you've also got the good stat with Cassie second off the layoff with last out winners on the turf, and you're dealing with a barn who's just been in fuego.
Yeah.
They've been scorching here lately at Gulfstream Park, batting well over 40% over the last 30 days. Now, obviously, the number 2 LA House makes a lot of sense. Now, Antonio Sano had a tough DQ on the turf here yesterday, midway through the card, but he did win a race, and maybe the recent fortunes of that barn might start to turn. And I do like the fact that LA House is just a little fresher than she was last time out. She had 6 days between races most recently. Now she's got a full 3 weeks. As we move on to race number 8, late pick 4 begins on the main with a $50,000 to $40,000 3-year-old filly maiden claimer, in which I feel as though the starting point is likely the 5 Bunker and the 7 Golden Veil. You've got them 1, 2. I've got them 2 and 3. Both have excellent trainers in their corner.
They do, and I know that Golden Veil was well beaten last time out to be second, but she was a good second. She's got some tactical speed to her, too. She's trained by Barkley Tag and keeps Jose Ortiz. Bunker's off the layoff, and that's definitely the hurdle for her. She hasn't raced since September, but she comes out of a very productive race, in fact, and a good race at Churchill in her debut. Didn't break well that day, so hopefully off of the bench she can get out a little bit sharper. And Brendan Walsh does a very good job with these kinds of layoffs with maiden claimers.
Excellent trainer and he's been a little snake bitten with some bad luck and some tough losses this meet, but he did get a deserving win yesterday with Miraculously, who was the one elevated, in fact, with the disqualification of Love to Share midway through the card. So a good trainer with Brendan Walsh, and another good one with Gilberto Zerpa, and that was the appeal for me, seeing Jaramillo riding the 4, Blessed Venezuela, not in love with the Colonel Johns by any stretch of the imagination, but it does give me comfort, even in a maiden claimer first time out, that 3 of the 4 foals out of this dam are winners to date. So yeah, that's a look at race number 8.
It should be a good one. That one's actually half to graded stakes place Adonis Creed, who is turf horse, so we'll see what we get with this one, but Jaramillo up, always a good thing for a very sharp barn.
No question about it. As we move on to race number 9, final pick 3 begins with a quick one here, and a quality field, I might add, at 5/8 on the turf, and this older, open, non-winners of 1 optional claimer. Looks like we might have a sizzling pace in this race. However, the number 1, I'm a Wildcat, is about as tough as they make him. He is one of these tried and true turf sprinters here in South Florida as he starts for trainer Jorge Navarro.
He is, and he lost a tough one last time out. That was on February 4th. He was the number 6 that day. And I mean, I really felt for that horse in the connections here.
It
you
sounds
can see
like
right
it, too.
there.
Yeah.
You can see right there Chris Landeros looking over his shoulder to see who's behind him. He ends up getting beaten by 30 to 1 shot Shoshone Brave, who is not as consistent as you might find, but just basically right there in the purple cap, it looks like he's in a good position, and he is so game to hold on here. I agreed with you. I thought this would be a really hot pace in here, and that's why I ended up putting him in second, but he's about as tough as they come.
And that's why I picked him. He can handle the pressure, and I know he's just going to leave it all out there on the turf course. But in regards to getting the reasonable, logical, it looks good on paper and sounds good in your brain race flow, it all goes to the 8 C's on the outside, who's certainly a bit of a bridesmaid. I mean, that is the hang-up on a horse who's 1 for 11. But if you were looking for the best closer in the race, he just jumps off the page, and obviously that's a factor not lost on you.
That was my thinking, basically looking at the potential race flow of this race. And as much as I like I'm a Wildcat and the show that he and Shoshone Brave put on last time, C's was right behind them, closing in 3rd. And I think that it's going to be an even quicker pace. There's going to be more company up front, which will set it up for a horse like this. You've got moves like Ali. You've got, obviously, I'm a Wildcat, Marvista Miguel. Black Jet is not slow. So this could be a very fast race, and obviously it'll come down to trip.
All right, we'll see what happens there as we wrap things up on the main track. Late double begins with our featured 10th race this March 1st here at Gulfstream Park. A 2 other than 50K optional claimer, older fillies and mares. Not many defections on the card today. Pete Aiello coming up in just a few moments, but you can scratch the 3 valedictorian, and that leaves us with a field of 7. 6 if you take Salty's name out of the mix, which will be tough to do as she returns as a 4-year-old off a near 6-month layoff.
It's been a while since we've seen her. Her last race was in the Grade 1 Cotillion at Parks, and she hasn't won since she left Gulfstream Park. And we'll show you her last victory here, which was in the Grade 2 Gulfstream Park Oaks on April 1st. And here she is at the quarter pole. And Joel Rosario, who was aboard that day, I remember watching this race live from the winner's circle, and there was like a little bit of a gasp as he started to move, like, wow, what is going on? What is he doing? Because he realized that there was not much pace in front of him, and he started to move her early on the backstretch. And she was drifting a bit. She's still very green at this point. It was only her third career start. She had just broken her maiden. She managed to get that win, and she's been knocking on the door a bit since. And I agree with you. I think that she did end up being a bit behind some of the other top horses than she was facing. She was second to Abel Tasman in the Acorn. I don't think she turned out to be quite at that level, but she's obviously a very good horse who likes this track.
Now, it's a prep for her today, you might consider. They've got bigger fish to fry, but Salty landed in a good spot in terms of her ability. She's got a real potential rival, though, in the 7 Tapella, who this might be go time. I think the stakes are a little different today between the 6 Salty and maybe the connections of the 7 Tapella, and that is a positive for the 7 Tapella, who, again, probably doesn't have in the immediate future some of the division's biggest Grade 1 stakes in mind. So you think the timing is ripe to maybe take down Salty today?
I think the timing's right, and I also like the distance. This horse ran 9 furlongs in the Comley last time out. I loved her mile races at Belmont, obviously a bit different with the mile here at Gulfstream, but John Velasquez back in the saddle. We know Todd Pletcher can get a horse ready to go off the bench.
I would say so. He enters the card, by the way, 49 wins here at the current meet. See if he can notch that 50th today. As we close things out, race number 11, 20K 3-year-old filly maiden claimers on the turf going 5 furlongs. For the most part, I preferred logical horses, and the big 2, so to speak, the number 4 Drinks on Maggie, who's got that early speed, and even though that post is towards the outside, the 11 Uncle Junior might just be able to stalk outside and just pounce for Jason Service.
And Uncle Junior, a filly, don't get confused, but I think the slight drop in class, the addition to the blinkers last time, and Irad Ortiz.
All right, we say who's the boss? It ain't Uncle Junior. It's the one and only Pete Aiello. He's standing by. Pens and pencils up, everybody. Those Thursday March 1st scratches coming your way.